I am tired of caring how people perceive me. I am tired of being afraid of being too much. I am tired of withholding my breaths and my gift to guide me into suffocation and self-inhibiting. The way that my mind creates these little spirals of self-doubt is becoming increasingly intolerable. So I'm using this video to confront myself. And to confront you if you yourself also have spirals of self-doubts that keep you from declaring, that keep you from emanating, that keep you from shining in the fullness of the I am, which you are. Or in this case, which I am. I've been discovering that the mind scripts these mechanistic defense story systems to keep itself safe from the pains within the body, from the pains of being perceived too deeply. I'm not sure why that is. This fear of being seen so deeply. What I can say is that the feeling when I allow my mind to slow down a little bit from its spiraling like avoid, 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 avoid. There's like this desire to hide, this like, oh, I better not show the fullness of myself. It might be too much. It might not be safe. I better hide. And I feel this in my heart and in my solar plexus. And because there's these great pains over here, the mind and the ego prefer to stay up here and swim in the fishbowl, which keeps reality limited, which keeps the self limited. Under this Gemini new moon, we're just two lost souls swimming in a fish bowl. It's coming through in my mind. I don't want to be a pair of lost souls. I don't want to be a single lost soul. I want to be found. I want to be seen. I want to be felt. I want to be rooted in truth. I want to be rooted in the fullness of who I am. I want to declare the fullness of my expression. In the past month or so, and far longer, I've been tuning in to the ability of my language and my breath to alter the fabric of reality. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh. Words, breaths, the thumos and spirit and soulful essence which they carry, co-constitute the intersubjective life essence of the world. And this is not merely the human world. Bird songs literally create reality. If birds were not singing, the world would collapse. So what happens if we do not sing? What happens if we limit our voices out of fear of particular systems that have conditioned us to be afraid? Conditioned us to be afraid. That have told us that we might die. That we might be imprisoned. I'm speaking of the past. I'm speaking of inquisitions. I'm speaking of slavery. I'm speaking of war. I'm speaking of injustice. These systems of illusion and falsity and greed, which have plagued humanity for thousands of years and have enmeshed themselves contractually and in a way that is constricted into our DNA. These internal programs and codes of war. Reinforcing the idea that we must conform, that we must limit ourselves. That we must confine the infinitude and fullness of our expressions. Otherwise, punishment. Punishment from the eternal Father, all-seeing, all-knowing, and all-loving. Or in today's world, punishment from the Panopticon. Look up the Panopticon by Michel Foucault. Punishment from the police. Punishment from the judgment of others whose opinions for some reason matter. In a world where so many people are disconnected from the authenticity and truths of their hearts, where so many people are entrapped in the very fears of which I speak, why would you or I care about the opinions of people who are stuck in delusions? Why would their opinions matter? Why would their judgments, which come from a place of insecurity, which come from an inability to find safety within their own beings and within their own vessels and within their own hearts, which come from a complete lack, period, complete lack, period, that is nothingness, a void, but which come also from a lack of thumos, a lack of integrity, a lack of connection to the sacred, a lack of prayer, a lack of any spiritual practice, a lack of life itself. I've been walking through San Diego offering my typewriter poetry. And given that it's like I just set up a table on a sidewalk, Sometimes I get those judgmental eyes from the people who are high and mighty because they make their 6 figures at their 9 to 5. And they're like, look at this bum selling poems. And I'm very good at being completely unaffected by that judgmental perspective and just deflecting it. And yet, I'm speaking here of a similar energy, of this fear of being seen, of this element of me that wants to hide, that wants to be like, oh, maybe I'm not enough, maybe I need to hold back. So I don't understand why I'm fully able to completely brush it off in the real world. But in situations like this, sometimes it's a little more difficult. I'll speak to this because it's alive right now. First off, parentheses, Gemini new moon, Gemini energy is like this oscillation between dualities and polarities, the twins, the dyad of the mind. It's very aerial. It's an air element. And so dancing in the floaty energy of the mind, of the intellect. My intention is to be more grounded and rooted here, but we are still playing with these Gemini energies here. And that's part of why this is coming through right now. Close parenthesis. What I was going to say, because it's alive right now, is I've been sitting with this irritation with myself, both today and other days, with the fact that I don't fully have this clear direction for my YouTube channel. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I'm not sure what my purpose is. I'm not sure what my intentions are. I'm not that clear on it. I'm still in a process of discovering and allowing the guidance to guide me to my purpose, to my intention, to my arrow, to my reason for being, to my thumos, to my life purpose, to my mission. So that I'm irritated, I'm frustrated with myself, with this channel, because I'm like, okay, well, what am I doing here with this channel? But also with my life more generally. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Where am I going? Why am I doing this? What is going on? And I've sat with this frustration today, but I also sat with a feeling just before recording this that's like, it's okay. It is perfectly okay. This is where I am right now. And I am allowed to just share this process and to pray that it'll help someone else who's on a similar process if it can. And if not, at the very least, it helps me. And that will guide me to help others when the time comes. And simultaneously, it led me to this looking back on the month of May and how I have been day by day going through the transformations, going through the doldrums of my own paralysis, of my own avoidance patterns that I'm still working through, of my own places of scarcity and lack, and of my own ways in which I'm completely dissatisfied with the reality that I've created for myself. And I'm like, okay, how do I break myself free from this? And I'm looking back on the month of May, and I have a lot to work with. I know where I'm overspending money, where I'm overspending time and attention, the other kind of currency, which is more real than money. I'm aware of the places where I'm not showing up where I should be. And I'm aware of the places where I'm pouring a lot of energy that isn't actually going to bring a return, isn't actually helping me, isn't actually conducive to the fullness of who I want to be. And simultaneously, I've noticed the things that really make me feel like I'm coming alive, that really inspire my thumos, inspire my soul, bring out the fullness of who I truly am in a way that is invulnerable, so that I walk through reality after a 3-hour session of writing at the coffee shop, and I am completely unscathed by anyone's perception of me. I am who I am, and I stand within the pillar of sovereignty which I am. Shamelessly, unabashedly, connected to God, joyful, abundant, tuned into the magic which I am allowed to be. And so I'm looking back at the month of May, and I have a pretty good idea. Okay, these are some of the things that I need to work on. These are the things that I need to do more of. Release a little bit of this, do a little bit more of that. And it doesn't have to be this urgent fucking fight for your life, urgently change your life in an instant, heal instantaneously, and shame yourself if it doesn't happen quickly enough. Do you get what I mean? Bah, 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 bah. Do you get what I mean? Because in the month of May, I have found myself shaming myself for where I am. In the times when I am rooted in my shortcomings, my not showing up enough, my not showing up strongly enough, and I beat myself up for it. But it doesn't have to be that way. It's good to have a little bit of frustration towards yourself and to have the kind of anger that's like, okay, enough of this bullshit. A change needs to happen. And that is the masculine pole that's like, all right, let's get a vision, let's get a purpose, let's get a drive, let's get willpower, let's take action. And this is medicine, and it is true, and it is real, and it is worthwhile. So it's not that I'm throwing that out. On the other side, I just look back, just matter-of-factly, almost neutrally, and I just take a breath and I analyze my life. Where did I show up for myself, and where did I not show up for myself? Where did I show up in a form of self-love? What brought my soul alive? What took care of my inner child and cradled him in my arms like a little baby that made him feel safe and loved? And then what made the baby cry? What felt like acts of cruelty and hatred towards my inner child, towards my own self? And it's not about shaming myself for failing to show up, but just like, okay, now how can I show up better? How can I very matter-of-factly just say, okay, enough of this, let's do that instead. Why was I saying that? Just to embody more compassion towards myself, and to invite you to embody more compassion towards yourself. And to invite the medicine of softness. And to evaluate our lives And to realize that while there is some urgency and some like, all right, it's time to change. It's time to not conform to systems that are dead, to not conform to people's perceptions which are dead, which do not matter. It's time to shed those layers of hiding, of self-suppression, of self-negation, of self-inhibition. And it's time to show up and bloom and say, I am. Again, this is worthwhile, but you can do it slowly. You can do it with softness, with compassion. And with a slow dissolution and letting go of the ways in which you're at war with yourself. I spoke earlier of traumas, traumatic imprints of war within our genetics, within our fearful self-paralysis. It's okay to recognize an urgency and letting those things go, but to not do it urgently and to not fight and resist and be like, oh, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. Just let it go. Let it dissolve. And then just breathe. And realize it was never there in the first place. It was made up. It was an illusion to which you were clinging because it provided safety from your pain. But illusions are never actually safe. Truth is safe. And ironically and oxymoronically, feeling your pain is the path to safety. Because once you feel it, it comes to completion. And then it dissolves. And this is a choice of letting go. Of simply allowing yourself to be wherever you are, as you are. And to find the perfect balance between that anger towards yourself and towards the world and towards society and towards the zombies and the zombification. A balance between that and all right, I gotta get the fuck out of this. And then the recognition that it might take a little time. We gotta work through our imperfections. We gotta work through our pains. And a flower doesn't bloom in a single moment. It goes through 4 entire seasons to bloom for 2 weeks. And then it dies, and the whole cycle of the seasons come back. Or like the iceberg that has the tip of the iceberg and then the gigantic layers of ice under the water. So, I'm not fully sure what the purpose of all this was. But I pray that it was helpful for you. I know it was helpful for me. I feel quite at peace. I feel quite present. And sometimes the presence itself is the medicine. And peace itself annihilates war, at least within, with a prayer that it can ripple outward and heal the wars without. I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna swim in the ocean. I'm gonna show you the ocean so you can feel her. Phew. Oh my God, my foot's asleep. Sending healing waters and blessings. Yeah. And everything that you need to be the fullness of who you are, connected to God. Thank you.